All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to the October 22nd, 2020 school board meeting. If everyone will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I get a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Next item on the agenda is our public comments. Full disclosure, we received a few requests to read some fairly lengthy articles about various topics related to hospitals and COVID and whatnot. We determined that that is probably not a public comment, and if folks want to continue to send those our way, we absolutely will read over them and any information that they think is pertinent to help us make decisions. But try to keep public comments to things that are actually public comment from individuals. Having said that, we do have a few of those. First is from the Eastern Elementary 6th grade team. Dear board members, I would first like to thank you for your commitment to Giles County Public Schools. We fully understand the gravity of the decisions you're being asked to make. However, we would be remiss if we did not share our concerns with increasing the number of face-to-face students at this time. Let us first say that we want nothing more than to have all of our students back with us as normal. But these are not normal circumstances, and they would not be returning to us under normal circumstances, under normal conditions. One of our biggest concerns is the lack of space. We cannot properly social distance with more students added to our classrooms. Ours are some of the smallest rooms in the building, and even reducing to 3 feet separation, we still could not accommodate all of our students. Additionally, the limited space would necessitate all of our students and ourselves being masked all day, with the exception of lunch, which is a whole other issue. Presently, we and the students are able to remove masks and maintain social distancing. This has been a blessing to us, as it is extraordinarily difficult to teach effectively while masked. We also have 2 students with hearing difficulties who rely on being able to read our lips. We are greatly concerned that an increase in the number of students attending face-to-face would result in increased COVID cases. Beyond the obvious concern for the health and safety of those individuals, we are also worried about the possibility of schools being completely shut down, at which time no one could receive face-to-face instruction. Under our current plan, we have been able to mitigate the number of cases while still being able to see students face-to-face. And the hybrid plan, in our opinion, is working. Every day we get more comfortable using our virtual learning platform. Every day we get the opportunity to work with small groups of students in ways that have never before been possible. Every day our face-to-face students tell us how much they appreciate learning in this environment. Contrary to some opinions, we are not losing our all virtual students. Most of them are thriving. We can see that some are not. However, some of these students who typically struggle in the face-to-face environment, and we're certain if being back in school more often would change that outcome. We have worked harder this year than ever before. We have been asked to teach in a completely new way with very little training. Our pedagogical training did not prepare us to teach during a global pandemic. We are stressed and we are tired. We are also rising to the challenge. We are proud of the learning opportunities we have offered our students. We're providing quality instruction, both in person and virtually. While we think part of the intention in bringing more students in at this time is to ease our load, it would in fact increase our already double workload. We would still be planning both face-to-face and virtual instruction, but would lose our small groups and possibly lose our planning time. While we appreciate the surveys as an opportunity to express our thoughts, the option we think is best to keep the hybrid plan as it is was not a choice. We feel as if our voices have not been heard. We feel invisible. We're professional educators who have been doing what is best for our students for years, and yet ours are not the voices being listened to. The hybrid plan is what is best given our current circumstances. We implore the school board to strongly consider our opinion when making this decision. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to express our opinion. We wish you the best as you make this important decision. Sincerely, Eastern Elementary School, 6th grade team. Thank you very much, 6th grade team. The next public comment is from Eastern Elementary School teachers, grades pre-K through 3. And there are signatures from each of those teachers at the bottom of this sheet. To the Giles County School Board, all teachers in grades pre-K through 3rd grade at Eastern Elementary would like to clarify the record stemming from a misrepresentation of each of us during a recent work session. It was stated in that work session that all the teachers in pre-K through 3rd grade were ready to have their students return to full-time. That statement is completely opposite of what we stated and gave educational reasoning to support. Please allow us to clarify any and all confusion. One of your members visited our school and did speak with several teachers regarding the logic of all students returning to school. It must be noted that no members of pre-K or kindergarten, as well as one teacher in 1st, were even visited. Yet a blanket statement was made for all. Therefore, the statement was not true for any of the teachers. We did indeed validate that we certainly would love to have our kids back and be able to teach in the manner we are used to and love to do. However, we gave numerous sound educational reasons why at this time that would not be in the best interest of the education of our students. We also stated that we do not have the facilities to carry out a full return to school and keep students, faculty, and families safe and healthy. We would like the record to show that a statement was made that misrepresented each employee referenced. Again, we would love for the pandemic to be over and to return to normal teaching. However, it is not. Until an individual is placed into the classroom setting on a daily basis, one cannot imagine the challenges that both the teachers and students face. We do not feel a change in schedule is best for our students, nor do we feel increased numbers in our classrooms is a wise decision at this time. We strongly suggest waiting until after the cold, flu, stomach bug, strep throat season to even consider our next steps. Please remember we continue to be in the middle of a pandemic which has no cure to date. We would also like to address the manner in which Dr. Arbogast was addressed concerning the wording of the teacher surveys. Let us assure you that we were educated and understand exactly what is meant when you ask if we were ready for any and all grades to return. 90% of our entire EEMS staff said that we are not ready to make any changes to our schedule at the present time, not through 3rd, 5th, or 7th. You can word a survey any way you feel is more appropriate, but the bottom line remains consistent. We do not feel it is in the educational best interest of our students nor the health of anyone remotely involved. Please listen to educational professionals when they give their opinions. It is more than discouraging to have the professional opinions of the vast majority of all levels of educators to be completely discounted by those outside of the profession. The next and last public comment submitted by Ella Williams. Good afternoon, my name is Ella Williams. I am a 6th grade student at Macy. COVID is ruining my life and many others. It's keeping me from seeing the people I care about and preventing me from reaching my potential. I can't focus at home. I can't focus anywhere because of the demand the teachers are placing on us not being there. I feel like we should be there at least 4 days a week so our teachers can calm down and work with us in person. They're stressed, but we're stressed too. We are the purpose, right, that you are all working for us. We're supposed to be the ones who matter the most, but no one wants to listen to us, the ones that everyone is so worried about. If you cared about us, you would realize that COVID is the least of our worries. My mind works better with the support that surrounds us at school and the structure it gives everyone. It's making people that have not had mental health issues before, including myself, have problems that should not be happening at my age. Secluding us out of the school is keeping us from healthy behaviors. Most of the suicides in the world now are because of COVID keeping people from things and people. There are multiple people at Macy, my teachers, my friends, and my guidance counselor that are very important to me, and only get to see them 2 days a week is causing problems. They are a support to everyone. Everyone needs everyone. Some of my friends agree with me, and we want to be heard. We think as 6th graders, we matter just as much as a third grader needing to read. Not seeing my friends that are on a group has made me lose strong bonds. I miss my friends. I have lost many friendships because of COVID and being out of school, and no way to check on them or for them to check on me. Everyone keeps asking me and my friends if we are okay. We are not okay. We need someone to hear us. We need our lives back. Sincerely, Ella Williams. That is all of the public comments that we received. Do any of the board members want to address any of those public comments at this time in any way?
I'd like to thank their comments. I'd like to thank their concerns, you know. And I know the teachers are right about these surveys when we ask their opinions, you know, when we take these surveys. I felt all along, Dr. Arbogast, Mustang, our administrators and the teachers, we need to value their opinions. They know, you know, their kids more than anybody. That's their profession. You know, we need to listen as board members to their concerns more. And you know, this is so hard here. And whenever the time is to go back, whatever we decide, whenever we decide it, pre-K through third or whatever, one thing that we hadn't talked about, and I guess right now may be the best time to bring it up, I'm not sure. Maybe if we could, and I don't think we've ever talked about this, maybe we should talk about the ones that, the kids that are really struggling, either first graders or second graders that are, and the teachers are going to know those students. And I know a lot of them are, you know, should they be brought back first whenever we decide to bring them back, and not all at once? Maybe talk to administrators and talk to the teachers. They know the ones that really need that one-on-one.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but my problem with it is what I've been seeing with PALS testing data. We've got 75%, nearly 75% of our students that are almost to grade. They're not getting not reading grade level or grade level below. I mean, that scared the living daylights out of me when I saw that, because that tells me it's not just kids that we always are having trouble. It's a whole generation that we may be losing, and that scares me, because I've heard for years, we hear it all the time from the folks over in Montgomery County about, oh, we don't want to send our kids to school in Giles County. We're going to send them over to Montgomery County. The schools aren't that good. We know that's false. We know we've got great teachers. We know we provide a great education. When businesses want to come here, they're going to look at these scores that we have in our schools, and that's going to be a deterrent. And if we don't get on this and address it, this is a problem that's going to hit the school system for a decade. And it's important that we do everything that we can, however it is. I'm open to anything, but I just see that we've got to get, especially these young kids, back in school. All of them.
Well, we talked in some of these budget meetings, you know, and of sharing everybody's concern, maybe some reading specialists getting, you know, we've got to do they're not little things, big things. We've got to do these things.
We do.
We've got to play catch up. We've got to do these things. But I agree with what the teachers are saying, that, yeah, we've got everything moving right now. We can't go backwards, so.
I'm also concerned with what we're losing daily to homeschool. Since last year, since the beginning of this year, we were 181 last year when we ended school. We are 236, that was as of yesterday. So that's 55 kids. That's a pretty big difference, you know, that parents are upset for some reason. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, you know, that's money. I mean, that's changes our ADM numbers.
And I think the biggest challenge, and I want to clarify, I'm the one that visited Eastern and spoke to teachers for more than 4 hours, and I apologize if I didn't get to every single one of them, but I did the best I could. And in the work session, what I meant to state was that they all acknowledged that the kids back in the building would be the best thing for the kids. I didn't, if I misrepresented that I thought that they were all ready to have them back in, that was certainly not something that I intended. However, what we have been hearing for the last, in that work session, and all the teachers that we've talked to, is that there seems to be a challenge that there is no way to get, let's just use K through 3 for as an example, back in the building and still meet CDC guidelines, even at 3 foot separation. So here's my question to the community, teachers, parents, taxpayers. How long do we say, well, CDC says can't be inside of 3 feet? If we're, this time next year, they still say can't be inside 3 feet, we still don't teach the K through 3 to read? A year and a half after that, they're still saying, yeah, we're recommending not inside 3 feet. We are stuck with the buildings that we have, so we can't tear them down and build classrooms bigger. We will find a way to educate the kids properly, and we're going to relentlessly keep trying to do that until we figure it out. When the PAL scores are showing that 70% of the kids in some of the schools are already way behind, the answer is not, well, we just wait this out and do a better job next year. I'm not willing to look at a child that doesn't have a good support system at home and say, I'm sorry, we weren't your voice. This student that sent her letter in, we don't get as many of those as we get from the other side, but that is her reality, and she is just as important as our teachers and our parents and everybody else. So people have to understand our central job, other than the budget, we've got to be leaders and find a way to teach the kids. And all the teachers are saying the virtual, it's tough, it's killing us. So we're hearing that something needs to happen. PAL scores are coming in. What's that telling us? We got to change the way we're doing something. So I get the passion. I mean, I think Mark really advocates for the teachers all the time, but
Well,
I don't think people are willing.
That, Mr. Shelley, it's to me, and I've said this 100 times, I think, you know, we've got this school system on the track and it's moving. You know, I visited several places within 70 miles that are just starting their hybrid plan right now, just starting it. You know, they've been pure virtual, you know. Thank goodness, you know, we haven't done that. My biggest fear, got a bunch of biggest fears, but of shutting everything down or having to go pure virtual when we send everybody back when the numbers spike. You know, we've got something moving and they are learning. It's harder on the teachers, but the teachers are saying, hey, it's working right now. They know better than we do. Let's listen to them, you know. And after, you're right, at one point, we're going to have to say, hey, we've got to send them back, but let's use common sense and the judgment in time, after the flu season, after these numbers drop, you know, let's do it then, you know. It's
The problem we're getting, flu season ends in April.
well,
And
whenever. I mean, it could be in April. You know?
what I've got a problem with, I spoke to a teacher that really, she said something that struck me. She's from over in my end of the county. She said I could use her name, but I'm not. She said, do what's best for the kids. Because I asked her, so what do you think? She said, do what's best for the kids. I will tell you this, though, that my kids, I'm only going to see them 36 days a semester. Let's think about that. Normally, we have 90 days per semester. We're down to about a third of that because, even if we go back 4 days, we're already down 20% of the number of educational days that we have. Now, granted, we have the virtual piece of it, but as a parent, my son's teachers are working their tails off, but the virtual component of that is not, those 3 days of virtual are not nearly the same as the 2 days they're in the classroom. And that's where I come out on this.
It's not only the grade school kids. I had a high school teacher tell me that they can look at all their kids in their class, all their grades that they're taking. He said the virtual is not working. This is in high school.
I had the same conversations.
Yeah.
So our challenge is, again, it's not if, I mean, it's when. And we're not trying to force anything down anybody's throat, but let's just face it, we meet once a month, and we can increase that if we have to. We have one work session. The teachers are trying to teach in class and virtual, and we've got to be figuring out a way to get better and a plan developed to get them back in. Working together.
It shouldn't be, we're not against.
But if we don't try to move things forward, it will be April, and we'll still be sitting here talking about we need to do something better. So all the plans we talk about, we have asked staff to generate those. Has there been one plan come from any of these board members that say this is what we're going to do? Dr. Arbogast, we had a meeting and this is what we want you to do. I'm an engineer, Jason's a attorney, everybody's got a different job. We aren't experts, and I think we have all said that over and over. We're not going to say that we know everything that there is to know about it, but we are going to find a way to not leave these kids behind. And I've had several teachers say, and I think they meant it well, this year we're just going to try to have to do the best we can. This year we're going to have to try to do the best we can, and we're just going to have a better plan going into next year. No, not while I don't think this board is okay with that. And if we're waiting on the CDC and everybody else to give us something that lets us comfortably march our kids back in and everybody feels super warm and fuzzy, it'll be 3 years from now. They won't be comfortable relaxing that until they have everybody vaccinated and they don't have one death on their hands. So we can't wait for everything to be perfectly comfortable. And that is really scary. And when that decision comes, every one of us, the public that's listening, every one of us knows the weight we carry on our shoulders when we make those decisions. And we're going to listen to our experts, and we will have to take some amount of risk at some point and accept the risk that we're taking to not leave the kids behind. But I don't know if we're all saying things differently, but we can't just keep waiting and waiting. So
I'll give you another example that I witnessed this yesterday, that virtual is not working. I was at home yesterday. My son's in the 9th grade. He gets a phone call. And I'm sitting there, finally when he gets off, I said, "Who was that?" And he named the kid's name. I can't remember what it was. I said, "What do you want?" "Oh, he wanted to know how to do something." I said, "Well," he said he's doing fully virtual. I said, "Well, why don't he call his teacher?" He said he can't call her. So he calls my son to figure out how to do his homework on virtual. So it's just not working. The virtual structure's not working. If you don't have a kid that's dedicated to doing it. Now mine is, but he's on the hybrid schedule. I have no problem with him. And just luckily that he is, he's very bright. But these kids that don't have a support system at home, the virtual's not working, and that was proved yesterday.
Well, I think we've got a fair amount of discussion coming up on plan, the Dr. Arbogast plan to present to us for K through 3 reentry. We want to get through the rest of the items, and then we can have that much larger discussion. Is that the board's pleasure?
Yes.
Everybody good with that? So need a motion and a second on approval of the consent items, which would be approved by single vote. Those consent items include meeting minutes from September 17th and September 3rd, financial data, and information related to 2021 advisory committees.
Make a motion to approve the consent items.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on any of those items?
Do y'all have any questions on finance, the bills, payroll, anything? While David's here?
There are a few things I may follow up later, but I think we need to devote our time in the meeting to other things. It did appear, David, thank you for providing that. And as we go forward, it'd be interesting to see. There are a few things that looked a little.
It's still a work in progress, so to speak. And, coming from FY19 to FY20, we made a few adjustments. We made quite a few adjustments for FY21 starting this year. And COVID-19 is definitely, it doesn't give us a good trend on where we spend our money and exactly, because there's no specific code for COVID-19 materials and supplies. It kind of has to be allocated to each school as it comes in. But I'm sure you're going to have questions. Email me because it's just a matter of researching it and getting it back to you. And we can make adjustments however you guys need and want to in the future.
I've got a question. Are you keeping a running total of what the COVID-19 supplies are?
Yes, a lot of the money right now has been going to the county for the most part. There's some stuff we paid on our side, such as the school supplies that we gave the schools at the beginning of the year. The CRF funding that's been released here in the next little bit. That will be tracked very rigorously, as well as any other COVID-19 that's applied on our side. Some of the stuff that's reimbursed, it's a good amount. It had to be paid on the school side, and then will be reimbursed from the county, and they'll reimburse it on their COVID-19 relief. And that stuff's easily explained. Just tell me exactly what you're looking at, and I can get you the specifics on the invoices and what it is.
Well, at some point, I don't know. Of course, I like numbers. I've told you that before. I'd like to see it, just a summary of it. I mean, not drill down into detail, just kind of what we're looking at. Because we throw out a lot of numbers here and talk about that, but I would like to see that at some point, in our next board packet. I think it'd be good to look at. If anyone else has any thoughts on that, get it up.
No, I think very soon we're going to have to make a decision on spending quite a bit of money from that CARES Act and the other bucket of money. So
We just need to be careful. The CARES Act, we have the ability to spend through September 2022. The CRF allocation has to be spent, and whatever we spend it on has to be in hand by December 30th.
So that's the most aggressive bucket of money.
Yeah, so you're going to hear me refer to it as two different, but it still is, as you alluded to, is still coming out of the relief funds.
Can the CRF money be spent on payroll or COVID-related payroll
Through December 30th.
It cannot be spent on an across-the-board salary increase. If we can tie it to the pandemic, and I've reached out to get clarification, if we can tie it to the pandemic with the virtual learning and the added time that's caused for the teachers and et cetera, it could be a possible expense
but not beyond the December deadline?
The CRF, we have to spend it by December 30th. It is gone by December 30th.
Even if we're contractually obligated on that,
It has to be spent, yeah, by December 30th.
so if we enter a contract with someone, we couldn't, just because we're obligated and have essentially spent that money on a accrual basis, that when thought, okay.
How much is that CRF?
$396,340. $396,340.
How much is the other?
CARES funding is $370,910.24.
It goes to September.
September 2022, right?
It's a 2-year grant, just like the federal grants.
We don't need to be spending any of the CARES Act money until that CRF is.
Correct, and it's gotta be substantially different from our original budget. So you can't cover any costs that we budgeted.
That
or
can't be in the
allocated money
budget.
Towards for FY '21 as it is now. So whatever you spend it on has to be related to COVID-19, and it's gonna be substantially different as far as nothing that we had planned on spending money on and budgeted for this year.
And that's just the CRF.
That's just the CRF money.
Yeah, and I can tell you what it can be spent on if you want to know what it can be spent on. CRF funding must be spent on the following categories: testing supplies, that's expenses related to COVID-19, testing kits, testing costs for staff and students, personal protective equipment, that's general supplies and equipment for staff and students, facility cleaning and sanitization, that's the expenses for supplies and equipment to clean and sanitize the schools, technology to support distance learning, that's one-time upgrades to networks for virtual instruction, additional staff and student devices, MiFis, etc. Staffing could be staffing costs for duties related to COVID-19 response and mitigation for temporary period, including hazard pay or overtime. Teachers providing virtual instruction due to the pandemic, health service staff addressing COVID, extra custodians, bus drivers, etc. Capital facility upgrades, including school building HVAC cleaning upgrades and purchases related to COVID-19 mitigation, the installation of the plexiglass barriers, wall dividers, hot water service, and other upgrades related to mitigate COVID-19. Pupil transportation includes school bus upgrades and purchases. Purchase of additional school buses needed due to capacity restriction, extra route runs for physical distancing or social distancing and not routine bus replacements. Also includes additional operating costs for extra bus routes due to capacity restrictions. And then emphasize special student populations.
So if any of the staff, they talk about it covering, it's only through December.
We can only pay them using that funding through December 30th. We're gonna have to revert to the CARES money if you're talking.
Did you check with the lady at Montgomery County about how the business continuity team did it? Because Montgomery County's handling that, and I put in an email a couple weeks ago. They are hiring people for the business continuity team. I think even maybe our school liaison person, and I think that was CRF money that did it. They were able to enter, and because it was contractually obligated, they were able to do it. I think it's Miss Hill at Montgomery County.
Yeah, I've not spoken with them, but the CRF money, we were just notified about October 9th, so I don't know.
If they did or not. Follow up with her or our school liaison I really think this is something I understand. Mr. Still and I were talking about school buses, but we're likely going to have some. What I'm seeing in these plans and things we're going to discuss later. We may have some personnel costs that only we can cover. The county can't cover that, and to the extent we can do that with this funds and get the county if we need. If we look, from discussions with Board of Supervisors folks, you know, I think they want us to try to use that on personnel expenses because they can't do it. So I really want an answer to that question.
And we may lose some teachers too.
So we just want to know if we contractually obligated through a agreement with an employee, then even though it would drain out after the December deadline, by contractually obligating it, would it meet that CRF requirement?
Because I want to exhaust that, I understand, I mean, we got transportation needs and everything else, but when the Board of Supervisors, I think, has been really good with us, when we've needed stuff during this, and we're the only ones that can cover additional personnel costs. You know, if we can't if we view it as one bucket of money, which I think they've been good about thus far, and we're the only ones that can cover additional personnel costs related to this, then we've got to exhaust that so that we're not draining the taxpayers of this county and with additional costs that could be covered with federal funds instead of local funds.
But based on and you correct me if you heard differently, based on the webinar that we listened to or took part in Tuesday, funds have to be spent by December 30th. They said that was even for somebody that was.
They're very strict on this for whatever reason, and
And then now they said they're gonna see and they're gonna pay attention, see if it's gonna be extended. They don't anticipate that date being extended, but they're saying December 30th because we're gonna have to turn around in January and he's gonna have to file reports on how that money's been spent.
it may be.
That's the CRF, not the CARES money.
Okay. Like I said, if we could just make sure there's not an exception to it, because that's a good chunk of change that we need to know completely any option.
But what if let's just say we found a company, and I don't want any teacher to think we're not keeping them in mind, a company that provided virtual teachers that would enter in a contract and we would pay that fee upfront one time for that service. And essentially it would leave our hands and go to theirs, and then they would pay their people that are providing that service to us. I'm just trying to think of any way at all that money could be stretched out for personnel, providing personnel for longer than the end of December. It's just gonna really put us in and I get why they put those stipulations on it, but it's good that somebody up there knows exactly what we need down here in Giles County. I'm glad they came and asked us before they set those standards, but that's pretty typical.
You know what they say about a gift?
It's federal. I mean, if it's federal, it's
You
federal money.
just let us know the areas that, identify areas that you think the money could best be used. What you think is the best, how we can use this.
I think we're setting up that we need to have a work session pretty quick. I think that'll blend into what we're going to talk about in a little bit. But there's some significant financial costs with what we're proposing.
Yeah, I've reached out for clarification on a couple of things that we've talked about, the paying stipends and that sort of stuff from DOE. And they're supposed to release a frequently asked question document from the meeting, the webinar we had Tuesday, or whenever it was.
That's one other thing I have, David, just thanks for all that you're doing. You're really putting us in a pretty strong position to understand exactly where our dollars are going. And just from the meeting that we had with you and the staff here in this building, you all have already been able to identify ways for us to better use money that we already have in our system. So what you're doing is it's crucial, more now than ever. So just appreciate all you're doing, financials.
And to go back, not that what you asked about looking for a virtual provider. Region 7, and I don't know how much I should share, but Region 7 is looking into doing a virtual academy, so to speak. But again, that won't be anything that can be done quickly. And it would be late winter, early spring before that could be finalized. So it's nothing immediately that would be able to help us. But we'd have to be careful now because there are virtual providers out there where the students enroll, but when they enroll in those virtual academies, their ADM goes with them.
And I'm talking about somebody that would be dedicated to our.
And that's the Region 7 would be something, but again, that's not an immediate thing because they would still be our students enrolled. They'd be receiving their virtual instruction. But again, that's down the road, unfortunately.
Any other discussion on the consent items? All those in favor? Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report, personnel and contractual items.
I have some personnel items I need to ask the board to confirm at this time. Athletic contracts, I need to ask the board to confirm the following. Nancy Quisenberry, Narrows High School Assistant Girls Basketball. Brock Lust, Narrows High School Head Boys Middle School Basketball. Abby Taylor, Narrows High School Head JV Cheer Football. Heather Ursano, Narrows High School Head Theater. Jason Breeding, Giles High School JV Boys Basketball. Todd Gwynn, Narrows High School Head Girls Basketball. Bradley Sutphin, Narrows High School Assistant Varsity Football. Need to ask the board to confirm those coaching contracts at this time.
Motion and a second on approval of athletic contracts as presented by Dr. Arbogast.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Guess I should vote.
Need to ask the board to approve the following volunteer agreements. Rodney Purdue, Narrows High School Football. Chris Hughes, Narrows High School Football. Brian Hughes, Narrows High School Football. Brian Long, Narrows High School Football. Jeff Allen, Narrows High School Girls Basketball. And Bailey Snyder, Giles High School Girls Basketball.
Need a motion and a second to approve volunteer agreements as presented by Dr. Arbogast.
Make a motion.
Second.
A motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Need to ask the board to approve the following resignations. Erica Gautier, Narrows High School Teacher Assistant, effective October 9th. Joanne Zimmerman, Cafeteria, effective October 1st. Andrea Church, Cafeteria, effective October 22nd. And Michael Etzler, Giles High School English Teacher, effective October 13th.
I get a motion and a second to approve resignations as provided by Dr. Arbogast.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Need to ask the board to approve the following retirement. Brenda Steffen, Giles Tech Center ITRT position, that'll be effective January 1st, 2021.
Get a motion and a second to approve the retirement as presented by Dr. Arbogast.
Make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Need to ask the board to approve the following employment. Troy Whittier, Giles Tech Center Ag Land Lab Farm Manager, effective October 1st, and Donna Brewster, Narrows High School Teacher Assistant, effective October 12th.
Get a motion and a second to approve the employment as presented by Dr. Arbogast.
I gotta
So
grab
moved.
it, yeah.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Need to ask the board at this time to approve the policy revisions that you were presented. You were presented a wellness policy to be approved, so at this time I ask the board to approve that.
Make a motion to approve the wellness policy.
I second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? Dr. Arbogast, I always like to clarify, is this a recommendation from VSBA as far as the policy?
This is, the wellness policies are
that we had to go through, I think, when that Christie asked us, based on cafeteria
Christine made those changes.
the information. Yeah, this is information from cafeteria,
Okay.
school nutrition program that needed to be amended to meet USDA and that sort of stuff.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Sorry with you, I have other information, but I'll hold that until you come back to me.
All right. So at this time, yes, we have concerning the mission statement of accomplishments. Do we want to move forward with the presentation of?
I'm going to.
Okay, I didn't know what she was.
Yeah.
We want to have Dr. Allgas present this return to learning plan.
That was the last thing I was going to do when we were done with everything else. But that's up to you all, because I wanted to make sure we got through everything else that we needed to, if that's all right.
Does the board want to do concerns and accomplishments now? Wait to the end?
Let's wait to the end at the very end. I'd like to end on a positive note,
Okay.
unless there's any objection to that.
No, I think that's probably, we're all thinking that. I guess I'll bounce it back to you, Dr. Allgas.
That'll work. Thank you. Some information. Enrollment, as of today, our enrollment was 2,238. That is a decrease of 3 from the end of September 30th, and it is 28 lower than our ADM number that we used for our current budget. Actually 27 less, I apologize. And we currently have 636 full-time virtual students at this time. And that is actually 36 less than September 30th. I think some of you were provided the Giles County Career and Tech Ed when we went out there for the budget hearing the other day. It's great information to review about all of our career and tech ed programs. So thanks to them for putting that together. Also want to continue to thank our staff, our teachers, our teacher assistants, bus drivers, custodians, everybody, for the work that they continue to do in these challenging times. They continue to work hard, and their efforts are appreciated every day. And I shared that with our PAC committee members on Monday afternoon as well. We know the challenges they face, teachers continue to do a lot of good things on their virtual pages and in the classrooms with their students. So we do appreciate that. Something else that we, after we talk about the return to learning plan, something else that we will probably bring to you at some point, because it's coming around the corner as well, are inclement weather days. We have the ability to consider virtual days this year to count for school days on inclement weather days. So we're going to work on something to present to you all at some point to see if we can't have something in place to make sure that we're utilizing those days. And before I get started on the return to learning plan, I do want to take the opportunity to introduce Madison Lilly, sitting over to my right, over in behind Miss Mustaine. She is going to be Narrows High School's school board student representative. So I did want to take the opportunity to introduce her. Welcome to being here. We want to welcome her here. And I didn't know if anybody had anything they need to say or ask her. I told her to be prepared that you might on occasion.
She's supposed to do the 10-minute talks right off the bat.
Let me get right on that.
I didn't tell her that, but I did tell her to be prepared that you all might ask her questions. I did tell her that.
Give us a little idea of how things are going, Madison.
Let me just hang it.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Come on around so the people on TV can see it.
Oh, good. So everything is, I'll take this off. Okay, my face is probably so red. I've gotten pretty positive reviews from everybody so far. I think everybody's honestly so happy to be face to face, even if it's for 60 hours a week with each person. People honestly are so happy to be back in the classroom. I think especially for math, because I take so much math right now that it's good to be with the teachers and good to hear what they're saying in real time. And virtual does have some benefits. You can sleep a little bit more. And I think there have been some good things today. But overall, I think I'm very happy to at least be where we are right now. I'm very grateful for all that y'all have done. I can't imagine the situation that COVID has put y'all in, but thank you for all that you've done. I know you have our best interest at heart. So, thank you.
Kind of more.
You're hired. We like
Thank
you.
She's got a really bad neighbor.
Yeah.
We still need to.
Her parents aren't too good either.
Her father, her mother's a jewel.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
I brought a
that's
little bit of
okay.
my daddy in. His public speaking genes were not passed down to me, so please bear with me. But I'm working on it. So thank
So
you so
kind
much.
of, I know it's kind of probably been a little sad without football games on Friday nights.
It is, but I've got my cowbell sitting in my room,
You
so
ready?
we're keeping the spirit up. And
Right.
I really want to just take a minute to thank Mr. Bowles, Mr. Lusk, the Narrows High School administrators. They have done an amazing job of keeping morale up. They're playing songs for us in between classes just to keep spirits up and keep it light, because these are kind of sad times, and so they're really making a point to keep us positive.
I noticed it's like Spirit Week.
Yeah, we did 80s a week,
Yes.
so that was a good time. I had my side ponytail. It was really fun. So but we're
80s
making
was
the best
great.
of it.
Yes. I agree with that.
I've heard.
I agree with that.
Anything else? Thank you for the opportunity. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Madison. I have one thing I need to ask the board to approve before I jump into the next item. I need to ask the board to approve the following volunteer agreement. Logan Conley, Narrows High School.
I'll make a motion to approve the volunteer agreement recommended by Dr. Arbias.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Okay, all right, after the last work session, during the last work session, it became evident that you requested a plan. So we sat down with the elementary principals, Ms. Mustaine and myself, discussed this with them. They met, reviewed information for their particular schools. We met again, we discussed information, and what you have in front of you is the plan that was developed. I'm not sure how you want me to do it. I'm gonna go by school if that's the way you want to do it. You've had the opportunity to review it. I can just point at do the highlights if that's all right. But first school, and again, it's in alphabetical order, so it's no particular order any more than that. You were provided information by school, by grade level, pre-K through third, because that's what we left there, the work session, that's what we were talking about, pre-K through third. If you review the information at Eastern, you can see for pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, if you look at those numbers, and I should caveat that, pre-K, they're requesting that we leave pre-K on the hybrid schedule, because with the number of students, 16 students coming back, it would be very challenging to have any physical distance with 16 kids in the classroom, particularly that age group. Kindergarten, first grade, you look at the numbers there, you can see that based on the current numbers and what's anticipated, expected to return, It's felt that the numbers in the classroom should be manageable for physical distancing there of 3 feet. Second and third grade at Eastern is where it becomes a little more challenging. Second grade, you look at the numbers that would return. They would probably be in the class sizes of 15, 15, and 16. There is not enough room in those classrooms to have 3 feet of physical distancing. So they would need to take apart or dismantle the 3 computer labs because those are much bigger rooms, and turn those into classrooms for those grade levels.
So with those 3 computer labs, the number of kids would be manageable for the second grade?
Those rooms would be better, yes. Now, I don't know I don't know if it would be manageable for 15, 15, and 16 but it would be better than what they currently have.
Do we stand a chance of losing any instructional delivery by dismantling those computer labs? I mean, everybody's using the...
Everybody has a one-to-one device right now.
Right.
Now, what they would lose in one lab is the keyboarding. So you would lose that instruction. The other ones have historically been used for SOL testing and other instruction where they would go into either IXL or something like that. But now that they've got a one-to-one device, they have a little bit. Third grade, if you look at that and you assume that all students return, they do not have the ability to accommodate the number of students in third grade. And they would not have an additional space for the classroom students to be able to split them up, to spread them out in those classrooms. So they would need to split into a 4th group to have be able to get to 11 in each classroom to be able to maintain the physical distancing.
So this is people who've said for sure they're coming back, or is this something we really won't know? Right.
You're not going to really know until,
Okay.
for 100% certainly, until something's done and people show up.
Anticipated.
So if we approve this, we're gonna have bugs to work out no matter what we do.
No matter what we do, it's just like what we said when we started the school year. We had bugs we needed to make sure that's what we needed to start, so we knew what we needed to start to figure out.
But can we hold the line on if somebody says they're going to stay virtual, that they have to stay?
Our hope would be that you all are comfortable enough that if we say they're making a decision now. Once they decide they're either virtual or they're coming back. That's it. They're not going to be able to flip back and forth.
Right.
It's decide now one way or the other. Because we have to know, because we can't have the back and forth coming in, going back out, because we have to have the numbers in place to know for the physical distancing.
They've been given an opportunity already throughout the first 9 weeks.
Yes.
They've had a chance to change
Yeah.
during the first 9 weeks.
Yes, because they had the one.
Yeah, they had the opportunity, yes.
Okay.
So you see there the needs that would be required. We would need an additional employee to manage the third grade group. We would have to have the computer labs dismantled and removed, and that stuff removed and taken stored somewhere. And stuff would need to be moved into those to ensure that they get them ready for being a classroom. And you would need a storage facility because of the furniture that's being removed out of the classrooms. Because currently right now, when you go to Eastern and you look in the gym, you'll see where some of the stuff is stored right now. It's stored down the far side, down the wall from the classrooms. Transportation, really, if pre-K through third grade or actually kindergarten through third grade is brought back, more in-person instruction, transportation is going to go back, bus routes going to go back to normal. Going to have to. You're going to run their normal routes that they'd ran before. So what that means for the school day, currently, as you know, they're 9 to 2. That would, to extend the school day, they would start 8:30 and end at 2:30. They would have the ability to arrive. It would be at 8 o'clock, so doors would be open at 8 for students to be dropped off.
So would this result in more, even for the students going on hybrid plan, more instructional time?
At the elementary level, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because it would be to 8:30 to 2:30 for pre-K 7. It'd be the whole building.
That's a problem.
So with the transportation, by extending the school day, you need to keep in mind in extending the school day, increasing the number of students, we won't be able to have the physical distance on the bus. So they'll, again, I failed to say while we were talking about kindergarten through third grade, they would have to wear their masks continually from the time except when they eat.
I don't know if you saw the new CDC guidance that just came out today. One of the concerns we've had is about contact tracing when you go from 6 feet to 3 feet, and if you're within 6 feet for 15 minutes in one time, that's a contact. Now the CDC has changed it. If you're within 15 feet at any time, if you're within 6 feet for 15 minutes within a 24-hour period. So if Melissa and I were talking throughout the day and came into contact with each other in an aggregate of 16 minutes, we would then be quarantined. Under the old guidelines, we wouldn't be unless it was 15 minute.
Yeah.
So, I think that's one of the concerns that personally I go through is, okay, are we going to lose classrooms to quarantines? Well, we're probably going to lose more classrooms to quarantines even under the hybrid system based on this new guidance.
Along with that, with assistance, they'll be riding the buses. They'll be getting on the buses earlier in the morning, so there'll be more chance for their time to be over. So we would have to have some sort of use of the CARES funding to cover the time that they would be going over their contracted time. Cafeterias with pre-K through third. Again, with them eating, it's going to be essential that we have 6 foot physical distancing. It is going to be a challenge because the most that you can get at Eastern is about 42 students spread out 6 feet apart. The largest class that they have would they have to accommodate would be about 54. So they're going to have to figure out splitting them up in the cafeteria, eat part in the room, or purchase some tables so they can spread out, put the table somewhere else in another area so they could eat there. If you see, you also look there, if maintaining the current lunch schedule with the 4th through 7th grade remaining hybrid, they'll go from lunch from 11 to about 1:15. If we start talking about bringing back all students, the other grade levels, you're going to need 30 minutes per grade level. That's going to extend lunch. They're going to end up going for lunch from 10 to 2 to get that 6 foot physical distancing. So again, as we said, they'll need some, they're gonna have to explore additional spaces to spread the kids out, to eat. Additional tables will be needed. They'll need some staff to monitor those areas as well to make sure the physical distancing and that stuff's taken care of. We talked about arrival. Already said that the students would arrive, could be dropped off at 8, started at 8. They can go get breakfast and go directly to the classroom. Instruction will begin at 8:30. Dismissal, they begin dismissing at 2:30. Parent pickups would start then, and then they would revert to, then they start releasing buses after they get to parents' pickup. We already mentioned that the additional need there would be for the teacher assistants because of the extended time that they would be on the bus. I know we talked about designating one teacher per grade level as the virtual instruction for that grade level. Had quite a bit of conversation on this. They did not feel that was possible to designate one teacher as the virtual teacher out of a grade level and split the rest of the students between the other two teachers.
What if we look at using between schools? Mason, Ayers, and Eastern. Has that been looked at?
I don't know that they talked about splitting that using one person between the three.
Or multiple. I think we've got to have every option on the table and thoroughly looked at. My biggest problem with this is I understand the burden that we're going to be placing on teachers with this virtual, and that's what we want is a way to reduce the burden any way we can, not just offer or provide compensation that you're getting to and recommending because it's not sustainable. It can't work. I want to give them, but we can't afford $800,000.
So they're saying that just the option of picking one of the existing staff members and spreading that staff's children out among the other teachers, that's not feasible. But what did everybody feel about a standalone virtual teacher in addition to staff that's there now that would take that burden away from
The conversation we had, if you're going to get a standalone virtual teacher per grade level, that's 3, 6, 9 teachers. One, where are you going to find them at this point in time? 2, that's 36,000 minimal times 9. You're almost $500,000 with insurance and all that other stuff. So that conversation went about that far, knowing we were talking about 9, and then when we start talking about 4 through 7, that's just even more.
If we could look at it, if there's any way to do it, and again, I think we can't look in one building. We've got to view this as, this is Giles County Elementary School, and we've got 9 classrooms for a grade level or whatever that is. And that we've got to look at those as the resources we have. How can we combine the classes? I know we got the limitation because we're not going to send the kids to the various buildings, but how can we staff it? And then maybe at that point, we're not looking at if we could pull a teacher from Macy, a teacher from Eastern, the class numbers work out at a certain grade level, and then we're not looking at hiring 9. We're not looking at hiring teachers for each building, but we're looking at hiring, maybe 5 teachers for a system. We've got to be creative in this. What are the other systems that have gone back 4 days a week doing?
I know that, and Montgomery County, I know a little bit about theirs. They're doing half a group in the morning in person, half a group in the afternoon in person, and they have a person that's doing virtual out of that grade level.
Well, what about the ones that are going? What we're proposing is, And there's, you know, DOE website I went on it today, there's a lot of localities near here that are going back 5 days a week. Wayne County's going back 5 days, 5 days 1 week. The next group comes in 5 days, they still got a virtual component. You know, you've got, you know, Floyd's going pre-K through 3, 4 days a week. We got, you know, Montgomery, we got Craig going pre-K through 8, 4 days a week. We got Scott County pre-K through 7, 4 days a week. Selling pre-K through 2, 5 days a week. Roanoke County, Botetourt, Bedford. I mean, we go on and on. We've got to see, I don't want us to reinvent the wheel. We got to see what they're doing. And we got to find out sooner rather than later.
So do we have to have a virtual, and again, these are questions, not assumptions. Everybody's on pins and needles. Do we have to have a virtual teacher for every individual? So tell me how that works, Dr. Alvarez. Does a virtual teacher have to be treated in the same way that a face-to-face teacher? You know, could they have multiple classes that they would be responsible for? The virtual teacher?
I would have to verify the answer to that. Teachers, I mean, there is a student-teacher ratio that we can't go above for in-person. I would have to verify to see if that's the same for a virtual, because I don't think we can just take one person and slap 50 or 40 or 30.
We wouldn't expect that, but I mean, at the same time, when you're doing that, it might free up some classroom space too, from the standpoint of having a teacher, you know, a virtual teacher may not need to have a whole classroom right now. You know, these are things that we've got to think outside the box on this, because, you know, what I'm seeing with this plan, and I said it in some of our budget meetings yesterday, I'm seeing a lot of problems. There's a lot of money that's raised up, the money issues, space issues, everything else. And unless we're going to accept the fact as a board that we're going to be stuck in hybrid, and while we've got these CARES Act, the CRF funds to be able to use, we have got to have a plan. And I've said this since August, that we've got to have high school principals looking at this and elementary principals looking concurrently with what we're trying to do at pre-K through 3, just so that we know it's economically feasible and that it can be safe. And we've got to look at those, because if we can spend the $396,000 before December 30th, and we've got that funding to be able to get our kids back in school, we've got to have that. And I think, I would hope the others on this board are in agreement, because we cannot make informed decisions about what we're doing pre-K through 3 unless we have an understanding of what costs we're getting into and what issues we're getting into with the rest of it. You know, I think we're going, you know, likely, I support going ahead with pre-K through 3, but I also, with some of these issues, more economic issues that are raised, we've got to have a better understanding of these hidden costs that are going to creep in, and how we're going to handle it and fairly take care of our teachers and their workloads.
So with the virtual teacher, would you be able to have a 6th grade virtual teacher that taught, as Jason said, for the Eastern 6th grade, Nares Elementary 6th grade, and Macy 6th grade, and that teacher would be your 6th grade virtual teacher?
I think it depends on how many kids you're talking about. Now, again, I don't know if you're going to stick 30, 40 kids responsible for that teacher responsible for. And they would have to be certified in that grade level.
Right.
Maybe it'd be middle school English. I mean, it was.
Well, those are the kind of things we've got to investigate and see what other people are doing. I mean, the virtual piece is the key, and regardless of what different opinions all teachers have had, the one that has been constant is they're doing 2 jobs. 3. Katie Rice says 3.
Sorry.
But, I mean, the virtual, if we can't find a way to get that burden taken off of you guys, then no back to school plan is, you're still going to be spread too thin. Is that not the crux of the matter? Okay, so I think we continue to keep hitting the wall with this virtual and the double loading on teachers. So we've got to figure out how to handle that virtual piece.
Then maybe just one building teach virtual. I know that's outside the box, but
Well, I'm open to anything, even if we're looking at temporarily busing kids, outside of their normal district and attendance zone, especially at these lower levels, because we see what these scores are, and it's not the fault of the teachers. It's not really the fault of the system up to now. We know that there's a problem, but that was because school ended in March and yeah.
So how do we figure out if there are virtual teachers out there? One, they're already doing something like we're talking about, and how many kids are they comfortable taking on? And will DOE let us go above the student-teacher ratio for a virtual scenario?
It'd be a matter of one of asking DOE, what ratio do we have to adhere to for virtual? I mean, I can ask that question easily. Yeah, I can get that question, yeah.
That tells us how many potentially we may need, and whether we even have an option to spread it out over a couple of different schools. But obviously, every time we talk about spending $800,000, I mean, I don't care how great it is, the road dead ends when we get to that level of expense.
It doesn't solve the problem of the workload itself.
So, I think even trying to take one of the teachers and spreading that teacher's workload over the others, I mean, we're just pushing a block around in the same room. We're just pushing that around.
Yeah, that's what all three of them felt, that all you're doing is taking it from one push to the other, because they're gonna end up picking up possibly three other preps if somebody wasn't doing them.
So we need somebody that's doing virtual to come in and tell us what options we have. I mean, I think we need somebody that is already doing that to say, hey, this is what works, this is what doesn't. Maybe that person hasn't done this long enough to tell us. Virtual Virginia's got to teach hundreds of kids every summer. Each teacher, how many do they?
They have them during summer, correct? They have them during the school year.
Katie, do you have a comment?
I don't speak for everybody. I'm just listening. I think that, I know Pulaski County, I have friends that are all virtual teachers in Pulaski County right now, teaching math. That was put in place in July. So they had to apply for it. Her caseload for math, now this is high school level, is 130 kids. So there wasn't a cap on it, but she's responsible for 130 kids. Now that sounds great, but that's 130 kids all day long, even at nighttime. So, transferring what workload people have done now to just doing that is not really leveling out workload. You're like you said, you're pushing a block around the room. I mean, I think it would be hard to bring somebody new in, because where do you get those people from right now? But then, I'm thinking about sixth grade. A sixth grade teacher usually is specialized in something, like math, science, and then their history and English. You have to have somebody that's certified in all that if you're just going to take care of sixth grade. So you really may be talking about more than one sixth grade little teacher.
And where are they at?
Well, we can't just sit here and say they're not out there if we don't know that they actually aren't. We need to actively find out whether they really are.
Sure.
And then tell the public, look, this was one of the ideas we had, and until this, at some point, there's probably gonna be a new curriculum at the college level for all virtual teachers because of this demand. And that'll be what they decide to do the day they graduate high school. And it'll be a whole, we're not there yet. So we've gotta find a way to bridge it.
Well, I'm like Jason, I'm willing to try anything, willing to go the extra mile and do things, whatever we can to help our kids.
Understand, we're never gonna find a perfect solution for this, but we've got to, make the best of it, fully recognize, again, I know that burden,
And there are teachers that are rocking it out. I mean, they're doing amazing things with
Oh,
virtual
They
stuff
are.
Yes,
that
they
I
are.
would have never.
Well, and the other thing that I see as a possible potential, I mean, we recognize, I think as a board, we've got teachers with health concerns. And if that allows us an option that they can take that and they're willing to do it.
I think that was a piece of, especially in Pulaski County, of, you know, that was part of their applying for it. Was they gave precedence to those that already had underlying health conditions, and then anything left over.
So what if we,
They do that from home, Katie, or
They
they
can do it from home. Some actually are in the building,
Some would-
kind of covering separate, but then some are at home, fully.
so what would it look like if we saw how many existing teachers would want to do for full virtual, knowing that we would have to replace the spot that they leave with a regular hire that would then fill in to their position?
Be a matter of us asking the principals to poll their teachers to see. Or you post a position, or you post positions and see what interest you get.
In understanding that I think the whole intent is that existing teacher, that they're not giving up any seniority, tenure, any issue with that, and the understanding.
Oh, no, they wouldn't.
Temporary hires.
They wouldn't lose, no, they wouldn't
Yeah.
lose their, if they're moving from current classroom teacher to virtual, they would not lose their year's experience or seniority. No, they're still teaching.
Right, that's, I just want to be clear in case
Understood, yeah.
somebody says we're not considering that, or.
I mean, nothing's perfect, but I think that gives us the ability to let our existing teachers have a shot at that before, as Katie said, somebody from the outside comes in and they don't know the system. If one of our existing teachers, I think they would probably roll into that virtual position probably a lot more fluidly than somebody that's never been here before. And then somebody that comes into a traditional classroom setting would probably roll into that easier than bringing somebody from outside for.
Well, plus, by doing that, you're also going to have the camaraderie and the experience, the local experience of the existing faculty to be able to be a resource for that actual teacher there. And I think that's important, especially, I'm sure it's always important for a new teacher, but especially in this situation.
So I think does everybody feel comfortable seeing how many of our existing teachers would be interested in a virtual position? Does that give us information that would help us to make decisions about this CARES Act money? But I think that's really where we're.
Well, I think you see if there's interest there. I wouldn't call it a survey though.
No,
that's not.
No, I'm gonna send it would be a conversation with the elementary principals to ask I'm assuming, are we talking K3, or are you talking K7?
I think there actually needs to be, it's just gotta go at the high school level. We've gotta figure out some staffing issues. Again, we're running out of first semester is gonna be over sooner rather than later. We've gotta identify these challenges if we're ever gonna hope to do anything but the hybrid at any other level. And especially while we've got this money that can be spent.
we probably need the big picture on that virtual piece because it's going to keep being the thing that we get hit with every time we do a launch of new grade levels back into the building. We're gonna hit that every time.
So
We're gonna look at it holistically.
So the question is to all principals to ask their teachers, staff, who would be interested in moving to full virtual position for their particular subject, grade level.
And, in the high school level, it may be, of course, they're maybe used to it from the standpoint of we've got some taking virtual classes anyway. But, you could have a situation to staff it, teacher with a health condition, she could teach that class, students could be in school, and she's teaching remotely from home or what have you. We can't foreclose anything. I think that's the problem. We're too much trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, and, you know, basically we just gotta try everything.
And we'll need to be prepared to address network or internet issues if staff do not have the capability to bandwidth.
If that's the only problem we have,
But I'm just
we'll
pointing
find
it
the tower. and-
I'm just pointing it out. I'm not,
What questions are they gonna have? Maybe Katie could help us with that. That question is probably gonna come with more questions than responses. How many kids would I have? Would I be able to come back to my class if this ever goes away? Are you gonna fill my position and then I'm stuck as a virtual forever and ever? What else, Katie? I mean, are those,
Those are good.
right?
Because nobody's gonna go to a virtual and think they can't go back to the regular.
And I don't know how we answer that other than that we
Well, you-
wake up and look out the window and see what's different.
well, you're gonna answer that, I would, because you're talking about asking the teachers who is interested in moving to a full-time virtual position. You've gotta fill those positions. What funding are we gonna use to fill those positions? The CARES money. At some point in time, that's gonna run out.
No, that's.
So that contract is gonna be understood that it's only for a period of time. Whatever that period of time is, whether it's the rest of this year, could be next year. But when it's gone, and that position is not, and that teacher from full virtual would go back into their regular position.
That would be clear. You know, I think what we're doing here is we gotta figure out for this year, how we get back in safely as possible, recognizing the burden that our teachers are facing with this and minimizing that, all at the same time, not creating something that's not potentially sustainable when CARES Act funding is not there. Because if we're rolling into 2021 school year, 21-22, without the CARES Act funding, and we go backward because we relied so much on that, we're back in August of 2020.
Well, good, bad, or other, this is the right time for us to be having this conversation because that needs to be something we talk about with the county. Because if we find a virtual plan that we think will allow us to provide the instruction that the kids need, and it's a dollar question, then as a community, we need to decide, do we do this knowing that we will have to come up with that next year too? And what are the ramifications to everybody's budget?
But as part of that conversation also, what I shared with you just a second ago was Region 7 looking into the virtual, I don't like calling it academy, but that's the virtual academy, where it's Region 7 school divisions up to possibly 19 school divisions working together to have that all virtual being taught.
But we still will have costs. I mean, it's
We'll
gonna
have
be
some
shared.
cost, yeah, we'll have some costs, but hoping that we have enough that the cost is not as significant as what it would be us just bearing on our own. Yeah, there's gonna be some cost to it, and I can't predict what that cost is gonna be, because I don't know yet.
Well,
No idea.
There's a board, we're
That's-
comfortable waiting until that magically is all worked out.
That's,
No,
but I'm not saying to wait for it, I'm just saying that's something, not this year, but
Right.
when we're, the conversation for next year,
Yeah.
or the year after.
we got a plan like that. We hope that comes to fruition, but we gotta make a plan that's sustainable for us next year. In the event that doesn't come to fruition, we're still, have the virtual burden, assuming that nothing gets better, there's no vaccine. We've still got a quarter of our students that want to, stay virtual. I don't think that we can just assume it's all gonna get better. I mean, I certainly hope November 4th it magically disappears, but I truly don't believe that's gonna happen.
Well, what I believe is coming down the line, and I've read lots of forms from the legislation that they're considering. I think we're probably gonna have to offer virtual for a very long time. And does that mean until everybody in the country feels comfortable that a vaccine has been distributed appropriately and we're super, super safe? I don't know how many years that takes. I mean, they're talking about it being a year just to get it to all the healthcare workers. So we have got to have a virtual component that works to take that burden off the teachers. And it's got to be something that we think will work for not 1, 2, maybe even 3 years or longer. So I think that's a discussion we have to have internally, but the county's got to be aware that we may be in a position of saying, look, this is the extra money we have to come up with to deliver instruction now, or we are going to keep losing the K through 3 kids and whoever else can't do virtual, and teachers. At some point, that is not sustainable, and then we've got a real problem. But we don't know, we need to know as a board how many teachers would be willing to do it, and are there virtual teachers out there that would want to come to Giles if we don't have enough internal that would do it? I mean, we need that data to start thinking about that expense.
And I don't know how we gauge outside them, except for posting positions as all virtual and see what interest we get.
I mean, and, technically, they don't even have to come to Giles County. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, they could be, as long as they're licensed in Virginia, I think.
As long as they have a teaching license and that they're certified in whatever we say, grade level or subject.
Once we got that figured out, is it ethical to put a feeler out there that looks like a real job offer to see how many real interests we get, in that we may not act on hiring if we don't get what we think we need, or there's no interest? I'm thinking about we can think about stuff all day long and keep having meetings. At some point, we need to know if somebody is really serious about taking that position.
We got,
We would need you to work out what that language looks like on qualifications, and I guess that'd be based on.
Well, it'd be based on, they'd have to be certified in whatever. If we're looking for a kindergarten, a K through 4 or 5, they need to be certified elementary in Virginia. If you're 6, 7, they're going to be certified in middle, at least. High school, they're going to need to be certified in the subject.
I think the course of action is gauge current teacher interest. At that point, figure out if we can do something with that structure that we can fill in if there's not enough with new virtual hires like Stevie's suggesting. And start having real conversations about how we handle that at all grade levels. And at that point, as we get further in, but I think that, as we're looking now for the pre-K through 3, we might not be able to, get that alleviated before we go back, but we need to be working. That in my mind, that's the first priority, is we look at those, figure out what we can do right now between what we propose to go back during that, or whatever that date is, and those are the first positions we fill. But we've got to be looking at that and budgeting it.
Katie, can I ask you a question? I mean, you don't have to answer it, but you being a teacher right here, and you listen to that, would you be comfortable just teaching your in-person and someone else doing your virtual? I mean, I just kind of want to know how you feel about that.
If it's someone outside of our district, I would be leery about it because they don't know us, they don't have the connections with us. And eventually we would hope those kids are going to filter back into regular classroom. While we would be in communication with them, it may possibly be that we're not all on the same page. Maybe they won't be back in. Somebody that's worked in this district, worked in these schools, probably have a better idea of what expectations we have. I mean,
What about this temporary thing? Not thinking of Region 7 and just kind of what we're talking about.
temporary, I mean, if I knew that, I mean, it's really hard to think of it now, that they've already been part of our responsibility, that now we're gonna let them go somewhere else. But if they are tied to my name, you know, because that's the class they're in, but this person is just facilitating, that's a different story. You know, that would be a different situation, but if they are, you know, teaching them, they're their responsibility, that would take the load, you know, off. It certainly would, because then I can focus on the ones I see in my classroom.
I think that's the only thing that's gonna work, right? That whoever takes the virtual has to own it and be held accountable for how those kids are or aren't being taught.
Well, I interviewed a young lady yesterday, Virginia Tech, on my job, and she's getting ready to graduate to Tech, going into education. She's doing her field training, Christiansburg somewhere. But in the interview, we got talking about what she's going through, and that she has to do some virtual training in her job right now. And it would be great for somebody like that who wants to start a career, get her foot in the door. And, you know, somebody like that, it'd be great, you know, to come to Giles or wherever, and start their career, you know,
Like a student teacher
Yeah,
block, like a
right.
student teacher block is kind of what you're saying.
Right, and start out, you know, doing the virtual or whatever, and then hopefully it could lead to a full position at one day. But I think there's people out there. So,
Do we want to, I mean, common theme in all these plans, I think this piece we've just been talking about is very common. The solution has been identical in all these. To move this forward so that we don't get bogged down on that, do you think it's best that we move forward, have Terry give us kind of the highlights of, just like we did with the problems that we're going to have with physical distancing, you know, any unique issues, setting that aside so we can move forward through this and get, you know, every minute we spend here is burning time. We could be getting ready. I mean, we got a lot of work to do. Unfortunately, you guys have here and worked hard, and all the administrators have, and all the teachers, but we've got, if we're going to do this, we've really got to get moving.
Yeah, let's move forward, Dr. Arbogast. I think, are we done with Eastern? I don't know if we got all the way through.
I don't know that we did either, but I can hit the summary of Eastern if you want. We talked about the classrooms pre-K. They felt to keep the way it is. Under the hybrid, kindergarten and first would be manageable with 3 feet. You see the number of students that could be handled at 3 feet physical distancing. Second and third grade would not be, it would not have that ability. It would have to anticipate that we would need larger classrooms, which would be dismantling the 3 computer labs there for classroom space. And we would need an additional person. Transportation we talked about, cafeteria we talked about to maintain a 6-foot physical distancing. What I did not point out is you see back here, an example of the possibility of a cafeteria table screen, so the divider to help maintain the 6-foot physical distancing and germ dispersion.
I mean, I think, go back to what Jessie says, I don't think she thinks that's, I mean, it doesn't help us on contact tracing in aerosol, a virus particle. It may not protect that much, so I
think we did determine it would protect against projectile vomiting.
That's right, yes.
We talked about virtual learning teacher. We've got a couple things, I mean, we got some things we need to, you asked to follow up on that. Concerns, as we talked about, 6-foot physical distance would not be able to be maintained. In some areas, the recommendation of 3 foot would be challenging as well. You're going to have more students in classrooms from different classrooms, grade levels mixing on the buses because you're bringing more kids back. Students of the same family may be on different schedules. You may have some younger siblings coming on 4 days and 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grades going 2 days a week. So you need to keep that in mind. Substitute coverage we've talked about. We talked about the contact tracing and the possibility of shutting down classrooms or grade levels because of for a longer period of time because of close contact. And there could be the possibility of having limited frequency of PE and some of the other specials. Needs, we talked about need for additional staff, maintenance, would have to take those computer labs down, storage facility, additional hours for assistants, and we've been talking about virtual teachers or supplemental pay for that. Macy, again, you can go through there and you can see the numbers when you talk about physical distancing.
Before we get back, before we finish Eastern, so what we're saying is, if we go back to Eastern, the recommendation would be, looks like we can do it for all the classes that they've given with computer labs, except the pre-K. And we would be leaving the Eastern pre-K out of the 4-day.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Like I said, that's not legal, you can't do that.
Okay.
That's what,
She said that.
yes, they asked Jessica Morissette, she said that's
Okay.
not a possibility, that you can't discriminate against pre-K, that if students come back, you have to include pre-K in that. That's what the special ed director said.
Yeah, then you're gonna have to realize that with 16 kids in there, you're gonna have a challenge keeping them physical distance at all.
so based on what Jessica told you, Ms. Mustang, does that mean Eastern does not have a plan that we can act on because of pre-K?
They have requested that pre-K come 2 days a week, and Ms. Moore said that's not legal, cannot do that, cannot discriminate against the pre-K students.
Okay. Well, I guess that goes back. Can we get them 3 feet apart? Can we maintain 3 feet?
I think they were talking about the nature of the student would be difficult because of
Well, I mean, that's,
16
we could have,
3-year-olds in the classroom keeping them 3 feet apart.
I mean, keeping them 3 feet apart,
Yeah.
even if there's 5, I mean, that's gonna be a problem. I mean,
I think that's what Ms. Morris was saying,
Okay.
okay, all right.
that you're not ever going to keep 3-year-olds 3 feet apart for
Right.
any length of time.
They were just worried about the increasing
Increasing the number of kids.
Yes.
kids you're trying to keep 3 feet apart.
Yep.
Send it to daycare, we're actually don't wear masks, so, yeah.
And the expense associated with that was just the additional hours for the TAs.
You got the additional TAs, you've got the additional staff member for 3rd grade to split that, the grade level up. You're gonna need another coverage, you're gonna need storage facilities to store all the desks and such that you're gonna take out of there. I think, but the additional expense is gonna be the virtual piece, however that virtual piece
But
plays
that's
in.
something we can't, we gotta have the information on everything.
Macy, we're ready to go on to Macy? Macy, if you look at, again, pre-K through 3rd grade, their numbers, you can see that pre-K, there's 28 students total. They feel that the approximate number of students allowed at 3 foot would be 20 and 20. So currently they feel that they could accommodate at 3 foot physical distance for those students. Kindergarten, you see the number there, 52. Approximate number of students allowed at 3 foot physical distancing would be 19, 16, 15, 16 for the grades. They feel that, or for the classes, they feel that with that 3 foot physical distancing, they could accommodate those based on those numbers. 1st grade, total of 57 students. Class sizes would be 19, 19, 19. The approximate number that you could get at 3 foot distance with the 3 rooms would be 19, 19, and 12. They can accommodate at least 3 feet in 2 of the rooms, not able to in 1 of the rooms. Doesn't feel they can get it in 1 of the rooms because the room is much smaller. And they don't feel like they can redistribute students from one teacher to the other 2 teachers because that would overload the other 2 classrooms. Second,
But could we use, I'm looking down here, the total class size in the second grade, we got 20, 16, 18. And, you know, they've got one class of 10 that you could move to the 12-person classroom. I mean, I don't like to make teachers move in that, but we've got to be looking not just the current classrooms they're in. If we've got a situation where, like this one, you can look at pretty clearly, that's solving the problem, and we've got to do that.
And that's saying that when they did this poll, that every kid, you know, we still don't know until they come back how many's actually gonna be there.
And that's kind of what's somewhat concerning about this from looking at it. It looks like not every stone's been unturned. I mean, I think you all, I don't, careful how I'm saying this, but I mean, it looks like the simple solution in second grade would be, you know, just switching the first grade to second grade classroom. And we've got to look at that in all our buildings if that's a size issue, because I know we've got some unbalanced classes.
So I mean, I guess not that to follow up with that, where is the sentence in the first grade that says to make this work? I don't see one. So based on this, we're, as of now, the first grade, if they would come back, that we don't have a solution to that.
No, because they feel that, again, they don't, with the potential of the students coming back, they could be 7 students over if all students return.
Yeah,
But no, I don't know that they looked at,
I mean, you look,
I don't know.
15, 15, 17, 10 in second grade, 20, 16, 18. You've got 8, you could put we can move it around and make these numbers work. I mean, I know we like to keep, you know, kind of vicinity, but we've got to look at every option. And that's clearly, I'm not gonna say clearly, it just looks like to me, based on this, that wasn't explored.
They did discuss it, but what the principals thought is that, like, even though this may be doable at Macy, it wasn't at Eastern, and they were looking at across the board equal pay for teachers. Like, if Macy can do it and Eastern couldn't, they weren't looking at a teacher going, you know, across schools. They were just looking at Macy. You know, Dr. Brown was looking at it, so they thought, well, you know, I might be able to do it in some grades, but not all. And then if we have, you know, this grade being able to have a virtual teacher, what are we going to do here? And if you pay this one to be a virtual extra because you can't fit them in the classroom, then you weren't being equal across the board.
I understand all about equity, but we got to have equity for our kids to get back in school. And I'm sorry, life ain't fair. This is not fair. COVID's not fair. We have got to solve this problem.
Yeah, but that was the discussion, just trying to be equal across the board, and one school couldn't do it.
To the extent we can be equal in that situation, we've got to do it, but we've got to solve problems.
But when we see if that alleviates the first grade issue, Dr. Rodriguez?
We'll find out. Yes, sir. Second grade, they looked at second grade numbers there. They determined that they could make this work by reassigning some students from one teacher to another to accommodate the 3-foot distancing. And that would have to happen in 2 classrooms. Third grade, very similar thing. They'd have to make that work. They'd have to reassign students from one teacher to another to accommodate the 3-foot distancing. And that would happen in all 4 classrooms to accommodate that. Cafeteria, we've already basically talked about that. It's very similar. They've got a seating approximately 57 students, and they'll need to, they're going to utilize their cafeteria, and they're going to talk about incorporating an overflow area outside the cafeteria in the hallway next to the cafeteria. So they would need some tables, such as plastic tables, such as these here. Arrival, we've already talked about arrival and dismissal. Would be the same thing. Doors would open at 8. Begin instruction at 8:30. Release at 2:30. End of the day. You see the pros there, students attending 4 days per week as opposed to 2, more in-face time, more traditional normal school. Cons, you got students wearing masks all day, currently not, again, won't be able to get 6-foot physical distancing. Be hard for preschool and kindergarten to maintain 3-foot physical distancing. We've already talked about contact tracing. Talked about the potential to shut down the classrooms, and we talked about substitute teacher coverage. We've talked about designating 1 teacher per grade level as virtual. We've already discussed that to gather additional information. We've talked about master schedule. You're gonna bring pre-K 3 back full time for 4 days. 4 through 7 will still be on a hybrid. They'll continue to use the traditional master schedule that they have. Aides, we've talked about, will need additional time because of their hours that they'll be on the bus and could go over their contracted time.
Real quick, Dr. Brown shared with me today his concerns already. I think, at least you may have more input on this. I think they're having some problems with some subs. You know, there's not getting enough subs, or
I don't think that any of the schools are getting subs.
and,
Have the subs because I don't know that the subs are the list that we have for subs is much smaller.
right.
And their schools are trying to utilize the staff that's in there so that you're not bringing somebody in from outside.
And he's afraid that, you know, if teachers get sick or if they leave or whatever, the subs, that's just at the back of his mind, you know, what will happen? You know, who will fill the shoes? And he brought that to my attention, and that's something we all need to think about, you know.
We do. We need to prepare for it. I mean, that's the thing. We've got to provide the education. If people get sick and those things, that's our charge. So we've got to figure that out. Even if it's bringing other people that are willing and qualified in, you know, as long as they're following the safety protocols that we have, that should not. I understand limiting the people, but we've got to realize, as everyone said, we're going into cold and flu season. If we stay hybrid, we're probably going to need substitute teachers. So we can't limit and stop learning because someone gets sick. I mean, and I don't mean that from the COVID standpoint, I mean that just from anything. I've got a question about this. So our age right now, they're on 30-hour-a-week contracts.
6 hours per day. Some, I mean, it depends, but yes, 30 hours.
I mean, I'm looking at this number here. So, and this wouldn't be 20 hours over per week. That wouldn't be one person going 20 hours over per week. This would be, I mean, what would their aides' hours be?
What would they get on the bus? 7?
They get on the bus right now, most of them 7:15, 7:30.
Then
I mean, what are we looking at hours wise? Because I just want to make sure that we're not. I mean, I look at that number there and I'm not sure where it's coming from.
they get on the bus at 7:15, 7:30. So say 7:30, then they're going to leave at 2:30 and get off the bus at 4.
The last one, probably.
The last one?
Gets off at 4.
So you're talking 8.5 hour a day.
On 4 days, so that's 34 hours. I mean, I you know, he's throwing out this number here that is just compared to what they're making. You know, I don't see why that cost is going to be that high.
We can verify.
I mean, I think if we're doing this, we've got to continue at the regular pay rate unless we get into overtime, which one we've got to pay time and a half.
Yeah, it would be a blended rate on the work agreement to cover the time.
Okay.
Because they wouldn't get to, if it's between 30 and 40, you do the blended, and then you would do over 40, you would do the time and a half, I would think.
So was that 30 something that all the principals got together and thought that was just a good start point?
$30 an hour?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a conversation we had. I mean, it was just a number that we put out there, but that's not what the blended rate would be. The blended rate will be, I'd hate to even guess right now.
Okay, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
It'd be $14, $15, $16 an hour, probably blended. Overtime would probably be, I would say 20, 22, 23. But it could be a little bit more than that depending on the year's experience. It depends on where they are in the salary scale with the hourly rate.
Is that 20 hours over per week total? Over hours for all TAs, or is that per TA? Our aides would be approximately 20 hours over per week, so is that the accumulation of hours for all the aides at Mason would be over 20 hours? So that.
Unless without asking him for sure, I'm thinking it is, but I don't know.
I think the longest one on the bus goes over right now they're doing it by, they have to take off 90 minutes or 2 hours within the day, and I think the longest aide that we have is working 12 hours a day. I mean, they're going over 3 hours, so 12 hours a week is what they're going over, and that's not working on Fridays and still going over. So what they were saying is that depending on the bus routes, since the bus, so they're trying to figure in, the bus routes are going to be extended because we're doing our whole routes now. We're just figuring, the only way they have to figure is because the routes are cut in half. So now they're trying to estimate what it's going to be like when you do your whole route, how much they're going to go over, which we don't know. All of these things, everything just depends on when you come back. You don't know until you walk through it. So they're trying to guess, but they're basing it on what an aide does now, half of the route is what they're trying to estimate. That's what I guess.
I think right there, that's, we gotta get an idea of this, but I think obviously.
Till we walk through it, we're not gonna.
Yeah, and that's something we gotta look at, CARES Act funding,
Oh,
clearly, I mean.
That's where it would come from, is the CARES funding, because again, we have the flexibility to use that further.
Yeah, I think both of us saw that number, the hourly number is a little.
Oh, the hourly number, that was a number we discussed, and that was based on some of the virtual stuff as well. And that was, again, a number that we talked about, and again, that does not necessarily have to be that, yeah.
Yeah, just from the aid perspective, looking at those particular positions, just look.
And I don't think any of us are minimizing the value that they bring to the table, but the CARES Act, we say that probably 24 to 30 times in these meetings. It will not last, it will not stretch forever, so we just need to, I'd love to give all of them a $30 an hour raise, but we keep, that money's got to stretch to get us what we have to do. So I just made a note that the blended rate's gonna be less than that $30, right?
Yeah, the blended rate or the overtime rate would be less than that.
Right.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
I don't know where we left on that one, but again, the summary, you can see the summary there for Macy. Physical distancing, feel they'll be able to return all students pre-K through 3 with the exception of first grade, but we talked about that. We'll have to verify whether they can move a class to another location to see if that would work. Cafeteria, we talked about. They would need some tables to help with the overfill area to be able to spread the kids out 6 feet. Arrival and dismissal, we talked about that already. Teacher assistants, we talked about for their additional time. We talked about virtual instruction, master's schedule. We've talked about aides. I mean, okay, we've discussed all that, unless there's something that you want to talk more about on that. Nares Elementary.
Carrie Haven, I see.
That's everything. It's in the layer that in the top for both. Yeah. Nares Elementary, looking at their plan again, talking about similar time schedule, 8:30 to 2:30. That would give the current hybrid students 2 additional days of face-to-face instruction, but also add 4 hours per week on top of that, extending the instructional day and by extending an hour. Some pre-implementation items that Narrows Elementary School thought of that they need to do. The physical distancing. You've got to look at your classrooms, and that's what they've done. If you look at the chart that follows that section, pre-K, current hybrid students are 18. You have total of 18 students. The class size that they feel they can do with the number of students 3 feet of physical distancing is 12. So that class would have not be able to do the physical distancing with the number of students that are in that class.
I think we gotta look at every classroom in the building. And I don't take that lightly, because I understand we're talking about your offices and those things that's your room. I do understand that, but we've got to be open to anything.
If you look at kindergarten, you have 36 current hybrid, 10 virtual, full virtual, currently virtual, 46 total. Maximum of current in-person is 13. They can get class sizes 16, 15, 15 based on 3 feet of physical distancing. They feel they can get 16, handle a class of up to 16, 3 foot physical distancing. First grade and second grade, you look at that based on the numbers. They do not feel that they can handle the 3 foot physical distancing, because 15 to 16 at first grade and 16 at second grade, and you can see that those classes are larger than that.
But that's if every kid returns.
It's assuming every kid returns, and that's the only way. I mean,
Well, that's worst case.
yeah, it's worst case, and we need to.
I know, but
Yeah. Third grade, you see the number of students there, total enrollment. Feel that the maximum class will be 16. They feel that they can handle a class of up to 19 with 3 feet of physical distancing. We've already talked about the instructional day going from 9 to 2 to 8:30 to 2:30. They would revise the master schedule as necessary to account for the additional hour to the instructional day. We will need to send notifications out to parents and to make sure that everybody's aware of what would occur. Just as information, IEPs and 504 coverages that would need to be amended or updated to make sure that they were being followed. Cafeteria, we've talked about that. Feel that they can fit 70 students in the cafeteria at 6 foot of physical distancing. They feel that will accommodate pre-K, kindergarten, and second grade. First and third grade, if they return in full, they'll be slightly over the seating capacity, so they would use the stage as overflow. And they would using tables and chairs. If and when we do 4th through 7, then those students may not be able to eat in the classroom, so you'd have to utilize additional seating on the stage for overflow there as well. And the last resort would be to use the gym, because again, the schools are trying to keep the gym as open as possible to be able to utilize that as a PE period for the students and teachers. Transportation we've talked about. Again, student drop off would be to begin at 8, just as the other two. They go get. Some buses have in the typical year did 2 drop-offs at Narrows Elementary Middle School. The second load arriving at Narrows Elementary around 8:20. So you've got a possible problem there by dropping them off later at Narrows Elementary. They may get to Narrows High School a little bit later. Because Narrows High School starts at 8:15. So that could be offset a little bit at the end of the day, because Narrows High School right now is releasing at 3, so you could back that up a little bit of time, 3:15, so you could gain a little bit of time there. You will not be, most likely will not be able to achieve 3 foot of physical distance in all school buses. We've already talked about the teacher assistants necessary to monitor students and their masks, and again, to help minimize close contacts. We've talked about arrival and dismissal. You can see that, 8 o'clock, they'll be arriving, and 8 to 8:30, they'll be dropped off, go to the cafeteria for breakfast, then go to class for class to begin at 8:30. Monitoring physical distancing, you see that's going to be monitored for appropriate physical distancing. Issues arise, he'll make arrangements when possible, and then they'll notify Ms. Mustang or myself when that cannot be accomplished. They'll monitor bus capacities to ensure all students provide an opportunity to get to school. And you might have occasion where the bus times might be lengthened just to get going because they're going on a daily route. We've already talked about teacher assistant work hours. And we've talked about exposures to now with having them closer, 3-foot physical distancing, we may have more close contacts, which may result in potential exposures in the classroom or in the bus. Could be and it could be in the cafeteria, the gym. It could be far-reaching. Other things that they could considered. We've talked about virtual. We have some information again that you all want us to gather on the virtual to share that with you, unless you want me to review that. Grouping of siblings, they're going to do the best to group the siblings, twins, household content in the same classroom or buses so that they that will help with the 3 feet physical distancing because being in the same household. Tables would they'll use overflow again in the stage. They have tables. If and when 4th through 7th come back, they may need additional tables, 5 to 7. So we just need to keep that in mind. And storage for classroom items would need storage, and again, where we would put a unit to store items, we'd have to figure that out.
So the biggest physical distancing issue, say that 10 times fast, that we know right now, if we're looking at it and assuming that we don't lose anybody in the pre-K, that's the one that we've got an issue with because that's the number of kids we've got there right now, and we've got to solve that, right? Okay. That would be my preference again, that we don't, to the extent we can do anything to preserve 3 feet, and we can look at, I think the rest of it hopefully will work out in its own, but we won't know until we get there.
On the storage issue, Dr. Arbogast, does the board want to consider getting quotes from companies to provide us? I mean, this seems to be a problem in every building. We've got plenty of property on 2 of these campuses. I think Nares Elementary might be the one that we had the most challenge to drop a storage unit, a pod.
Talking about a pod.
Yes, so that we can get these desks out of the buildings. They're stacked up like a spider web of death over in the corner. So I mean, how does the board want to pursue that?
I mean, I think check, see if the county's got any.
Right.
I mean, let's check and see if there's any other municipalities that will let us, the counties, the towns, anybody that lets us store stuff without incurring the charge. But, I think that logically follows because we need to get these things stored.
But we also need to make sure that it's something that's weather leak proof, because if we start putting furniture and stuff in there and it gets damaged, then we're out of cost there.
They could annex that.
I mean, like the rec center in Pearisburg, they're not allowed to use. Do they use any of those upstairs rooms now? I thought they were having to try to get that remediated for asbestos or something of that nature. I mean, spaces like that they're already existing. We have a couple of those classrooms upstairs that you just pack desk in.
That's kind of what we're thinking.
Yeah.
Let's check with the county and see if the town.
Buildings are.
I always joke that, the county and the towns buy every vacant building around, much to a taxpayer's frustration, but
What's the county doing with the building that used to be the clubhouse at Castle Rock? That's a brick and mortar building that is just sitting there. I don't think anything's happening there. I don't know.
there's been various
They do rent
events
it out.
space, yeah.
They do. I thought they've had meetings and that sort of stuff there, but I don't.
I mean, I think there's a lot of building spaces like that. We could probably find a half a dozen that.
I'll check with them. I'll ask the question, see if they've got anything to store, anywhere to store it.
I mean, to the extent we've got anything anywhere, which we don't, luckily I don't believe, but, you know, before we spend the cost, because I think every dollar
We can say.
that we could save we need to be looking at the cost, and taking care of this virtual piece.
And we get it in there and it starts working, and then we run out of money, and we're like, well, man, it's working great, but now we gotta back up.
Yeah.
Where we were, because we're out of money. They should look back at us and say, who thought that through? I mean, come on.
That's all the information in there, except for the one thing that I did not mention was the date that it was included in there that this could possibly start would be the week of November 30th.
I was looking at like the calendar in November, and I see like November the 3rd, we have a student holiday. Then we have the 11th is Veterans Day holiday. So then the week of the 16th will give us a full week. And then we would go Monday and Tuesday and have all Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for Thanksgiving. So I was just looking, if you get back that week, the week of 16th, then you would have a couple days in there, and then if you do have problems and kinks and stuff like that, you could, work them out. You'd have, and it's your first full week if you would do that.
Yeah, it's the only full week in November, but you only have 3 weeks between now and that time to do anything we're talking about, get the information, order anything.
I think we keep pushing back. I mean, I remember sitting here in August saying, we gotta get a plan. We're gonna look at it 4 weeks, and we don't have a plan. We've got a much clearer plan than we had back then, but we've got to, be able.
Is that doable, Dr. Gas, Lisa?
The 16th, I mean, if that's what you want, but then we'll push forward and get it done.
I think the major thing would be moving find a place to
Yeah,
store.
where you gonna move all that furniture?
Moving the furniture out will be the big obstacle, and you're gonna need the county to help us with that.
Because moving furniture, are you gonna do it while the kids are there during the hybrids?
Yeah.
Probably not, so you're gonna be limited to Fridays
Or the weekend.
or the weekend.
What's your recommendation, Dr. Arborist? That's what we need to look at. 30th,
I mean, that's why we put the date in there. That was a conversation we had.
So Melissa, you're sitting on the 16th possibly.
Well, I was just looking at like I said, it's your first full week, and then you're off on that Tuesday, so there's a day, it's a student holiday, so that's a day you could do work. The Veterans Day, another holiday.
Yeah, but I don't know whether it's a holiday, they won't be there. I don't know what their schedule is, maintenance or anybody on a holiday. I don't know I'd have to ask.
I don't think we let moving furniture dictate whether we can get started back. This community wants the school system to succeed, and we hear all the time from Facebook and everything else, there's lots of people around here that would be willing to step up and make some stuff happen. So if That's the only problem that we have. What if we tentatively shoot for the 16th? I mean, let's face it. We have no idea what's gonna happen between now and then with cases, with moving forward with these activities. I mean, we may hit another hitch, but if we tentatively shoot for 16th and we're aggressively pursuing that date, and we have to push it out because we've done the best we can, staff has pushed as hard as they can, and we couldn't make that 16th, then we're certainly well on our way, and the 30th will not be a problem. So I just throwing that out as a thought.
I think, I think that's workable if we just set a date that that's your target date, but we're gonna let teachers and staff and everyone know if it is, that's a definite date, whatever, we need to set a date for that too, so that people can plan.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Philip?
I think the 16th ought to be. I'm gonna go back. Shoot for it anyhow.
I like the 30th, that's what was presented. I think we sent these surveys out, we've heard what the teachers are saying. Why not listen to them? Their numbers, we know. We're getting them back. Why hurry it? Why ask them if we're not gonna listen to them? But we've got a history of doing that.
And I sent this plan to the health department, Dr. Bissell, so she could review it. I'll let you know when I hear back from it.
And obviously, that's the other thing, everything we said here, if we can't do it without Dr. Bissell says it, or then we obviously.
It went to Dr. Bissell and to Jason.
I just think we've got to look creatively at anything we can to overcome that. The other thing I think is cool, we need to set a deadline, because what I view and what I fear is that we've got to come up with an idea of the overall cost of moving forward beyond this. So we've got to go through the exercise, even if we decide not to do it, because I'm not wed to it. If these numbers start going up, I know for pre-K through 3, I'm just seeing the PALS numbers, and I know that we've got to do something about that. For the rest of it, we've still got to have an idea of the cost, and still got to have an idea of logistical issues and concerns, but with a looming deadline for some of these funds and many financial issues, both in supplies and materials and with respect to compensation and hiring, we've got to have an idea of that before we get into the holiday season. And I don't know what the date that these plans can be worked, because I know the elementary principals are going to be doing 2 different things. But what is reasonable to expect? Is it by the 16th there's a plan there? Is it the 23rd? I'd like to have one before Thanksgiving, because time burns up quickly.
When is Thanksgiving? What's the date?
The 26th.
26th.
Why don't we wait till after Thanksgiving to come back?
We've got another board meeting. I think we talked about the board meeting in November being the 17th, right?
November 17th at 4:30 is what you all were discussing, so we just need to get that.
So is it reasonable?
We started back, then we take Thanksgiving break. I think it'd be smarter just to at least start it after Thanksgiving. That's just my opinion.
So going back to what Jason was talking about, is it reasonable for us to ask the high schools to have us a plan logistically for them bringing kids back in the building by our 17th board meeting? I mean, you've always said that was probably the easiest re-entry of.
It is for one, it's not for the other.
No.
Giles High School it is, Nares High School
I
is
mean,
not.
I think you know what it looks like. We need to start
Nares High School semester is gonna be easier, because right now, their 4x4 block, they are only doing 3 in person.
I
The
mean,
fourth one is virtual, so for them to shift, it's gonna take them some time to get that fourth back in person. So start of second semester is the easiest for Nares High School. Now, I don't know, again,
I mean, I think we've got to look at it, I mean, I think in fairness,
but I can ask them.
well, I mean, and again, I think it's more, we need to look what a normal semester and a normal school year is like. I think realistically, there's no way that, given Nares High School situation, that we could go back at the high school level until the second semester.
But the two high schools don't have to be on the same plan.
Well, I think you've got to have equity.
I don't know,
One thing I want to be clear about is we've got to have equity with our students.
We don't have, the teaching method or the way that we deliver is not the same. Block and narrative.
you're still teaching, normal year, you're going 5 days for the kids at Nares High School, 5 days for the kids for Giles High School. Now you're going 2 days, Group A, 2 days, Group B. You start going 4 for one high school and only still 2 for another for a period of time, I think you're gonna run into the equity issue.
Yeah, I think,
I think we're gonna have a serious disagreement with that then.
That's okay.
I mean,
Work session.
I think that this is not the right time. A kid that is going to Giles should not be punished because their educational delivery plan allows us to let them have an opportunity to be in that classroom more often. You're gonna tell those kids they can't come back because we have another high school that's on a block?
well, that's the problem. We probably at some point need to decide one or the other.
But I mean, let's just say that out loud. I'm sorry, you don't get to go, we could get you in that building. We sure could right now, but you have to wait until the other high school gets to the next block. I don't even know how to say that out loud to somebody. That's another discussion, I guess, but, I mean, can we not get them both working on?
I mean, I think you gotta work, but I think realistically, if they can't overcome that, then realistically, we can't. I mean, I couldn't support that. Just, again, I think I said that earlier, the equity, we gotta have the equal opportunity for students, the equity part of it. It's gotta be a consideration. I mean, that's what we're dealing with the pre-K and at Eastern, that we can't just leave them behind.
You're pushing that all the way out to January 22nd, that's just way too long.
Yep.
Way too long.
I'm not gonna support that, so I guess
I mean,
split vote on that one.
If they can overcome it, great, but, I mean, and we're looking, we gotta look at the monetary issues, we gotta look at everything else, but, are we gonna go back? Bring the rest of the elementary school back, see how that goes, or we're gonna bring everybody back? I mean, that's a decision that's gotta be made, and then if you're looking at that 2 or 3 week break between it, if we're gonna do a phased approach, or if we're gonna bring them all back together, you're looking, say we come back the 16th, you're looking the first part of December, you're gonna be into Christmas shortly thereafter, you're gonna come back, gonna have 3 weeks.
I don't think we need to get pre-K through 3 back and then.
I mean, that's what, yeah.
But we need a plan like this from.
They've already been told to be thinking about, because at some point in time, they were gonna be asked for something in writing.
And I don't think we have to act on it immediately, but I think we have to have this data for the holistic look at everything, and like you said before, Jason.
No, I don't,
Can we ask them to have, can we ask the high schools to have this kind of plan back to us by a certain date?
I think Nares is gonna be different in that they're gonna have to have, Mr. Bowles is gonna have to have kind of 2 looks at it. It's what to get through the end of this semester if the board was so inclined to do that, and can it be done? And then what it would look like second semester, because, hopefully you wouldn't have that scheduling issue.
Yeah, they would go back just 4x4 and.
So when do we want those plans? And I really want to make sure there's nothing going to come out of the weeds and get us.
Yeah.
when we're implementing this K through 3, and something that we didn't even think about with the high school reentry comes out later on, and we didn't, maybe there's not.
I'd say it ought to be no later than the 1st of December myself.
I'd like it sooner, just from, we're gonna have to have a work session, we're gonna have some tough decisions to make economically.
Do you think they could have it for you to present it by the board meeting, that's right? Is that too aggressive?
If that's what we need, that's when we're gonna have it.
It's 3 weeks. And they can present the high schools to us on the 17th. Does that sound like what the board would like to request?
And it's more, I think that's more of a situation where we know that there's gonna be issues just like we're talking about here, but we've gotta get a handle on the cost.
And then, I think we're gonna put enough pressure on the elementary staff as it is with this date, whatever we pick. So the 4 through 7 plan, we probably need to let them, does everybody agree, we probably ought to let them get the K through 3 in before we start asking them for the 4 through 7?
I think the question to them would be, understanding they're gonna have a lot on their plate, is, what additional costs do you see, by doing that? If
For the 4 through 7?
Yeah, because again, this is something that we've got to decide to take care of. The virtual piece, take care of our teachers. We've got to know where the costs are.
When do we want to have an idea of cost for the 4 through 7 reentry from the elementary schools?
I think we need it all by the 17th.
Okay.
Well, that's like you talked about, like weeks. If you wait until the 30th to start and then you try to implement going back 4 through 7, then you're on Christmas break.
Yeah.
That's another reason why I was thinking like the 16th, it would give you that little bit of leeway.
Dr. Harvey, yes, I want to make sure we all agree. We're not asking the elementary teachers for this level of 4 through 7 plan.
You're just asking additional
by the
costs.
17th. Because they're going to have enough.
You're just asking additional costs for bringing 4th through 7th grade back.
Right.
Yeah, and we've got a pretty good idea, but maximum class size 3 and 6 from what's already been done. So I think those issues can be identified pretty easily.
So we're targeting the 16th, no later than the 30th. What is the board's pleasure on how we structure this timeline? Obviously, any day we pick is going to be subject to unforeseen issues that come up between now and then. Nothing is rigid anymore. But we gotta set something. We gotta provide some direction. Philip, you had 16. Lisa, you mentioned 16, Mark, you're at 30.
Yeah, was this already predetermined before we got here? Did y'all know these numbers?
What number?
The date, the 16th and 17th?
It was on our,
Did you already know that and not tell me, or what? Because y'all know how I felt.
well, no, that's why I asked for the calendar. I wanted to see what the days.
I would think it would make sense to come back after Thanksgiving, so why bring them back and then have to take a few days off, and, I think that would make more
So then you're
sense.
saying you don't want to bring the 4th to the 7th back to the 1st of the year?
Well, we don't know when we're gonna bring them back.
We don't know, but the problem is if we wait, because this thing, it's that thing. The only thing that I feel like we have to wait on is an issue that's a health-related issue.
I understand, yeah.
If you wait till, we can think of a million reasons why not to do something. We've got to set a date, we've got to go with it. I'm say the 16th, but I also think we've got to let parents know by the 10th, I mean, we gotta know, it's almost like a NASA no-go decision, so that, you know, if we're gonna push it a week, we can't expect people to, there's gonna be some different childcare arrangements. You know, I'm gonna have one son that's just going 4 days a week, I'm gonna have one that's going 2. And a lot of people are gonna have that, so we've gotta be fair to our parents, gotta be fair to our teachers.
So what's the pull trigger date on that prior to any start date, whether it's 16, 23, or 30? Is it the previous Tuesday, previous Wednesday?
I think noon on Tuesday. I mean, I think that gives a full work day and part of one so that discussions can be had, but still gives three full days plus a half day, you know, to get that announcement out for people to start making arrangements. You know, because I know what discussions and the things we heard heading into the start of school, and you know, the questions, you know, what are we going to do? This is going to be, if we're not going, we're going to make that decision by the previous Tuesday at noon.
Right.
It could be earlier, it could be later, but I just feel like that's a reasonable, because it gives time to address something that may have come up the previous weekend.
Do we need to have a work session prior to that?
I don't mind to have work session on that 10th. And if we have to make that decision, then we can do it.
You're gonna be here for budget hearings on the 10th, 7:45 and 9 o'clock with bus drivers, so you could have a work session after that.
Why don't we set a,
Cause you got a budget hearing that afternoon with GEA.
so
It'll be a full day.
we would have an update from Dr. Arbogast on the 10th at that work session on how progress has gone to prepare everything for reentry. And at that time, if things just have not progressed the way that they needed to, then we can pull the trigger and push it out if we have to. Is that kind of where we're going?
I think so.
Does everybody feel okay with that? Target the 16th, work session on the 10th to see if we're really all ready. No later than the 30th, period. That's like latest.
Unless numbers are responsible.
I mean, that, we have to be ready to move with that.
It's whatever
Every
plan
week. Yeah.
Health and safety comes first, we've got to remember that.
I mean, we need to be sure though that the 16th, we're not saying 16th, but we're okay with 30. I don't think that's, I mean, we really need to try to hit the 16th. You know, we're setting a backup plan in place, but the 16th is, I think, is what we really are trying to hit. Is that where Philip, Mark's not on the 16th, he's on 30th, Philip, you're on the 16th, Melissa?
Sorry, teachers.
This Mustang raised a very important issue. We've got to set a date for the parents to let the school know if they're going virtual or not. Because we you know, kind of stuck. We don't.
End of next week?
Either the first 9 weeks, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
October 28th.
Yeah,
Right, yep, so that's end of next week,
that would make sense.
That's Wednesday of next week.
I mean, I was just saying the end of the 9 weeks.
But they need to send notification out.
Yeah.
When will they be able to get that out tomorrow? So it needs to be the end of next week, next Friday. That'll give them a week, that'll give them time to get it.
It's the end of the first 9 weeks.
First 9 weeks is
28,
Wednesday.
right? 28.
Those are very important numbers for the rest of it.
That's a
You know,
good,
you're
good
gonna have to
catch.
know how much furniture, who's coming back, things like that. You know, you don't want to take furniture out, you know, if you don't need to.
That's a good,
Okay.
good point.
So how will they do that? How are they gonna, is that gonna be through Canvas you're asking that, or is that gonna be,
I mean, I
trying to
think,
be a conference, you know?
It's a survey.
No.
I think there could be a form sent home that they fill out through their Canvas, that they fill out that they're committing to be virtual or something, I mean, something,
I think Chris has already sent, Nares Elementary's already sent one out.
yeah.
I can't quote to you. I wish I had a copy. I could tell you what it said. But he's asked for a date, put a date in there.
Yeah, Chris has already sent it out.
It may have been, I think it may be next week or the end of this week.
To existing in-person students too, because they may change their mind. All right, we have any more discussion about that? I don't think anybody up here enjoys what we're having to do at each one of these meetings, so. I guess I'll go into my first, end of the meeting comments. That I just wanted to get out to the teachers. There's a full set of pages in these plans that say we are listening to what you're telling us. We did not pick apart or dispute anything in here from a professional standpoint, other than maybe there is a space. But this is, sent us this, we listened to it, and that's, I'm not gonna fool with it. But we've got to keep pushing. And we're hearing you on the virtual stuff. We are relentlessly pursuing a way to get to relieve you from that. But the testing that we are seeing coming back and the concerns that parents and teachers are gonna have about how far we're getting behind, we cannot ignore that. Their number one charge of the school system is to teach kids. Safety is important, taking care of our staff is important. Our number one job is to teach kids, period. And we have got to keep our eye on the ball for that. That's, I said at last meeting, these kids, K through 3, some of them, we are their only voice. They don't have parents. They don't have a good structure. We're the only chance they got. If it feels like we're running over people, we aren't. We are relentlessly pursuing trying to take care of these kids. And I don't want that to be construed that we're not listening. So there's nothing easy about it. We're not going to be having to make people happy no matter what we do. But I personally am dedicated to looking out for the kids. I love our teachers. This is going to be one of the worst years of their career ever. They'll remember it for the rest of their life. And there's nothing we can do to probably give them back the hours of anguish that they're going to donate to this school system the next couple of years. Other than we just are glad that they were born unable to not drag themselves into that room and teach every day. They were born with that mentality. And I'm sorry that we are where we are. And we're probably doing the best we can. It just is not okay, but that's kudos to the staff for putting these plans together, and I know they are absolutely drowning, and they keep doing what we ask. So I appreciate it personally. Who's next? Mark, you want to handle anything?
It doesn't matter what you say, teachers, because we're not listening to you. I disagree with Mr. Steele. The people that we entrust with their kids, who's with them all the time, who's teaching them, who knows more than anything, and you can look around and roll your eyes or whatever you want to. Those are the people that we should listen to, and we don't. Those are the people who have spoken up and said, this is what we need, this is what's going on. And I apologize that we didn't listen to. we talk about getting our kids, yes, they need to be in school. But we've got something going on right now that they know that's right. They know that they're being taught. And we will get them in there. But their health and safety comes first, more than their education. And it scares me to death that 3,500 people in Virginia, and this is not a scare tactic, has died. People in this community has died that we know. And that bothers me, and it should bother every one of us. And education then is important, life more so. And if something happens, can we look at it ourselves? But I do apologize to the teachers, because evidently we hadn't been listening to you.
Mark,
Go ahead, Melissa, so you go ahead
Yeah,
and do whatever you
I
want
don't
to.
think it's fair to say that.
Well, it is fair to say that.
No, it's not.
It is.
Well, that's
It
your
sure
opinion,
is.
that's your opinion, that's fine.
So
I will
do not
say-
say that we do not care about the teachers.
Well, I said we're not listening, I didn't say care. I did not say care.
I got a public comment here from a student that says we're not listening to them.
They also said that it's important for them to talk to their friends. Well, they can talk to their friends.
There's more people in this county than just our teachers, and I love our teachers, but we are in charge of everybody.
Everybody.
And the kids, K through 3, are not getting what they need. And I mean, we can't just ignore that. And so
Mark,
we're
you
not
agreed with
listening.
us. You agreed with us that we needed to get K
We
through
got-
3
we got
back in
to
the
do
door.
it.
Did you?
Hey, guys,
We're not-
let's.
Go on with your.
We're not gaining
Yeah.
anything with this
Yeah.
conversation, I don't believe.
This is each of
Let's
the.
just
Before you're done, before I.
Let's agree to disagree, go on.
Individual board member time, this is individual board member time, so I apologize for having anything to say about what Mark had to say. So Melissa, the floor is yours.
We're not always gonna agree on things. That's exactly right, and we do support our teachers. I mean, whether you think we do or not, Mark, we do. I mean, the majority is telling us to stay exactly the same. Is that what you're saying? So let's stay the same. Let's not go back K through 3. Right? So we have to start somewhere. We have to make a start somewhere, or we're gonna be in the same situation in a year. And we've got to get our little ones back in the building, and I feel good that we've made that decision, and we're gonna go forward with it. Our parents can't do it, kids can't do it, and I know our teachers are struggling, I know. I mean, we all have struggled through this. Every single one of us, at some point, has had to deal with COVID. I mean, I know that there's people who's been laid off from their jobs, there's people who've lost their business, but we all have to pick back up and move forward. And quit, it's not we're against anybody, this is not one against the other. We all have a common goal, which is to educate our kids. Thank you. I'm done.
I just want to thank everybody, starting from Dr. Arbogast on down. You've done a wonderful job. We know we've asked you to do a lot of stuff, and we're asking you to do more. I know you're going to rise to the occasion, because that's the kind of people we have in this county. And we really appreciate it. Everybody on this board, it's not an easy decision to sit up here and make decisions for everybody. We're not going to make everybody happy. Decisions we make, is it right, is it wrong? We don't know. We won't know for years to come. We just ask you to bear with us. We think we're doing what's best for the kids. Some of you probably don't think so, but just bear with us. Like Melissa said, we're not gonna all agree on everything. That's why there's 5 members here. But like I said, we really appreciate everything you've done, everything you're going to do. And hopefully all this will be gone in a year, 6 months, or 3 months. Probably not, but just hang in with us. And like I said, we appreciate everything you do. Mr. Bowden.
Thank you, Mr. Pennington. Again, I echo what Stevie and Mr. Steele said, Melissa and Philip and Mark as well. It's a tough job. I do believe that we are trying to listen to the teachers and address some of their concerns, but also balance what I feel like our charge is to make sure that our kids are educated. And I think this is the first step back to addressing some of those concerns and what's best for them. And that's what I feel like my charge is. But on a positive note, it's been very good to be a part of some of these budget hearings as a new board member. First time I've, unfortunately with COVID, trying to recognize the social distancing. It's been some of my first opportunities to come into our schools as a board member, and it's appreciate everyone expressing their concerns, and it's nice to see folks. A lot of the things that we're able to talk about are concerns that are hopefully things that were issues that were pre-COVID and will continue to be afterward, but it's kind of refreshing to think about those things, that maybe one day we might get past this and that we'll be looking at a school system where we don't have to worry about masks and social distancing. But that's a reality we're confronted with now, and we're going to try to do our best. But thank you to all the teachers and all the staff. I know you guys work hard and we ask some tough questions sometimes just because we're trying to find the best solution for our kids.
Dr. Orgas, do you have anything else for the board?
Next board meeting is November 17th, 4:30, correct?
Yes, sir.
Work session November 10th following the budget hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that'll be whatever time that budget hearing's over, we'll conduct
You
it.
need to advertise a time, you take your best guess on how long that budget hearing will last.
Bus drivers probably be 30 to 45 minutes, I would think. So I figure I'll start with probably at least advertise at 9:45, 10 o'clock area.
Yes.
If you said it, that'll keep you from talking too long in that meeting.
So we'll set it probably for 9:45 just to give us some time in the event that they're 9:30, 9:25.
9:45 at
Now you got Dr. Orgas.
9:45
Um,
9:30.
I think that's the only dates
Lisa's
only
getting
dates
there too.
that we had need.
My shoulders are broad. I'm good.
I should pay close attention.
We
I
have
second that
a
motion.
motion and a second to adjourn.
Hold on,
Okay.
do we need to vote on this potential start date for the 16th?
I mean, we gave Dr. Orgas consensus, but
If that's what you request, I guess we would need to vote, or have a vote on we got a pending motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
yes. So, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If we want to talk after this, you cannot approve adjourning. So, is there any further discussion? There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion fails. So go ahead, Phil. You want to make a motion that we vote on?
I just asked if we need to.
Dr. Orgas, what do you feel like you have the direction that you need? Do we need a document?
It's cleaner if you all vote.
Let's vote on it, or let's make a motion. And I'm trying to recite this correctly. I move that we set a start date for pre-K through third grade of November 16th, 2020, with what was the date, November 10th?
November 10th.
No, with a decision to be made by November 10th at noon as to whether that will be the start date or to be pushed back. And a deadline of October 30th,
November.
of October 30th for parents to notify the schools whether they want to return fully or go virtual. That's my motion.
And once they're virtual, they can't come back, right?
That's right.
We have a motion on the floor.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Do we want to formally put, I think we also said that what were the dates we set for the plans? November 17th board meeting.
You said you needed the plans by the for the November 17th board meeting, so I wrote down, I was gonna ask the principals to have them to me by the 12th, so we can get them to you all in plenty of time, so that, I don't,
Want a motion on that and clarity, Pat?
not unless you all feel better about that, but that's what I've written down, just to.
Okay. Mr. Rivers, one more time.
I'll move we adjourn.
Second. Motion is second, any discussion? All those in favor?